Maybe, Brad, do you want to circle back to what we were talking?
An acre a year, if and when the project gets built. Typically 2% escalator. Craig, I think, has some.
Yeah, I'll jump in a little bit on that one. I wouldn't suggest thinking about battery storage the same as solar.
Right.
It's far more intensive. If you understand what battery storage is, it's literally, if anyone has seen a lithium-ion battery fire, when they get water inside them, salt water especially, they don't put themselves out. They just essentially burn themselves out. So multiply that times 5 or 10,000, right? There is a consequence to what could happen there. Solar's pretty mild, right? Solar panels anyway. What we've seen within our marketplace, again, I think there's been close to like 2.5 million acres have been listed from folks like you. And I would highly suggest, having worked with landowners across the United States in a very neutral way, get representation. Get folks who know what they're talking about. The absolute first thing you should be doing, if this is something you're even considering, get as many offers in front of you as possible. Right? I hear it all the time of, I know 4 or 5 people, we're going to get you the best offer. That never happens. Don't do that. Right? Get as many people to look at that property as possible. Once you do, you're going to need professionals to work with you. Right? You're going to need either brokers, like people's companies, someone to manage it. You're going to need someone like Brad. Our company works with, and we're not lawyers at all, but we recommend folks like Brad across the United States for landowners to work with. But back to your question, what we see typically with battery storage is the developers are going to try to buy that piece from you. It is intensive. It's extraordinarily expensive to lease those pieces of property, so they're going to try to buy that out. And this is something for you all to consider, that piece of property fundamentally changes from the moment you enter a lease agreement. Now, you've increased the value, but Brad's exactly right. There's a lot of bad actors in every industry. This isn't just the energy industry. This isn't just oil and gas or solar. There's bad actors in all of them. And there's going to be plenty of people that will walk up to you and say, hey, I've got the highest lease rate in the world. And you're going to be able to go down to the coffee shop and brag that you got the highest lease rate. You're never going to get paid. You'll get in the option, which you're probably not even going to get paid much in the option because you're going to get so much for the lease rate. You want to make sure you're going with someone who's reputable, who actually builds things, rather than just flipping the lease down the road. It's a huge business right now. Trust me, I know. A lot of money is being made in that flipping business. This is different though. There's going to be a lot of landowners who think they are getting in really, really good deals. They're already doing financial planning. Man, 5 years we're going to get in. Brad, I'm sure you've seen it. Kayla and Blake, you've probably seen it on the management side. They're counting their eggs before they even got the chicken coop built, right? So you need to make sure when you're thinking about doing something like this, what is the end goal? If you don't get solar panels, or you don't get the project, or you don't get a turbine on your property, you're not going to get anything. The option payments, that's peanuts relative to the prize of actually having the resource on your property. So that's something you need to consider, is when you're looking at all of these offers, the top offer is not always, and if rarely, is the offer you should probably be going with. When you look at it from a time value money perspective, if I come to you and say, hey, I will give you $25,000 an acre, but I'm going to keep this lease option open for 10 years, versus Brad brings a guy to you and says, well, they're only going to give you $15,000 an acre, but here's their plan. They're already in the interconnection queue, which is a really long line that every developer has to get into to inject their electrons into the grid. He's already got a guy in the queue. They're only going to give you $15,000 an acre, but they're building next fall. Time value money, you're way ahead. And another thing landowners need to know about, that cash flow, again, you've fundamentally changed the value of the property by entering a lease option agreement. Once construction starts on any of those resources, you've won the lottery at that point. Enormous amounts of cash flow relative to likely what the property was doing before. That cash flow is an asset itself. So you can sell the cash flow itself up front, discounted, obviously, discounted cash flow, and you don't have to sell the ground. So if you want to keep this ground in the family, and this is something that Brad would work with you with, a professional like Brad, when you sign that lease agreement, you need to make sure there's an option in there that you can sell that cash flow stream. It's an asset, right? It's 1031 exchangeable asset, if you can believe that, which we won't get into that at all, but because that's a whole can of worms. But
That's right.